I don't. I think it's one of the most brilliant
he
scam
thinks
projects ever created.
Let me show you.
I think it's one of the most intelligent scam projects ever that has ever existed. I give Richard Larkin. He's been working on this since his 20s, right? He's been literally doing scams since his early 20s. He's got 20 years of experience. If you look at his resume, it's like scamming people with audiovisual equipment, spamming them with an anti-aging pill. Hey, let me finish, Richard. I let you finish. And so now he discovered crypto, and he's like, how do I make the most money? So first he learned Bitcoin. He was one of the best Bitcoin maxis. He stood up and yelled down Craig Wright and told him he wasn't Satoshi, and he sort of knows Bitcoin better than most Bitcoiners. That's why he demolishes the Bitcoin maxis every time he tries to do a debate with them, which I agree with, which I think it's stupid to try to debate Richard on Bitcoin. But the problem is that he's so smart that he created this thing that was guaranteed to fail because he thinks it's funny. And I figured out his fatal flaw a few months ago when I was going on this Hex documentary. I finally figured out Richard Hart. I think the thing that Richard Hart believes that's most important in all of this entire conversation is that literally everything in the world is a scam. Google's a scam. Facebook's a scam. Amazon's a scam. Bitcoin's a scam. Ethereum's a scam. Viagra's a scam. So like to Richard, it's just sport, right? He's just trying to see who can make the coolest, biggest scam. And he's very good at it. And that's why, again, I respect him a lot. I think that what he does, he's one of the best in the world. And, you know, that's saying a lot right there.
How would you define what he does? How would you define what he does? You said he
is the best corner cutting scam producer in the history of the space. Like he is able to basically find everybody's hot button, right? So like a user who's poor, who wants to get rich quickly, Richard is their man. Richard literally knows how to like hit every little serotonin or endorphin receptor in their brain with everything he creates. And I think it's pure magic. And again,
is it the $1 million Rolex?
I think it's the cars, it's the Rolexes, it's just your whole vibe. You're really funny. Like out of respect, I have to say that, but I also think people in there are going to lose all their money, right? So I think it's important to say both.
I'm sure you do think that, but that's why your gains suck and my gains don't. So what he just performed in debate tactics is called a Gish Gallop. He says 50 things that are wrong, and then it takes so much time to rebut them that you just basically forgot all the stupid things he said. But I have an okay memory for these things. So one of the first things he said was, I sold anti-aging scams. Can you tell me what the product was called or what price it was at or what the packaging looked like? No, you can't, because you just said something entirely untrue. Is that a Gish Gallop?
You're the debate tactician.
Go. Tell me the name of this thing that
It's an inconsequential detail. Let's talk about Hex and why it's going to...
No, you just called me a scammer, and I just said you're lying, and then you're like, what?
You didn't make an accusation.
I never sold anti-aging products in my entire life, ever. Never.
Okay.
You never sold...
There's a video
you never
where I
sent spam
volunteered
emails recommending that people buy these pills?
Oh, my God. Dude, I got sued for $500 in civil court 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago, in small claims court, where you can't have a lawyer represent you. It would have cost me more than $500 to fly to Washington State to defend myself. Getting sued for $500 in small claims court in Washington does not a spam king make you. And by the way, since you like to call me a spam king, I haven't heard of any spam for Hex or Pulse or anything that I've been associated with for 20 years. So you come on here and you call me a scammer in my face, but then you smile while you're doing it. You come on here and call me a scumbag to my face, but then you smile while you're doing it. I'm the guy that sets people free. I'm the guy that tells people the truth about crypto. Well, you were deleting tweets shilling Bitcoin going to 120K. I'm not deleting my tweets because I'm not a scumbag. You're deleting your tweets because you're a scumbag. You're a top buyer. You got your mom to buy the top or lied about it in a tweet. Which one was it?
There's a Mike Alfred's mom got wrecked Twitter.
Yeah. Yes, because this idiot bought the top along with Michael Saylor when I told everyone it was the top. But instead, he got his own family wrecked.
I had to block that one because he was spamming. It was replying on my feed like every single day. Like
so now, if you want to just go to Telegram and look up crypto deleted, and you'll see all his deleted tweets with the timestamps. Okay, because this guy lies to your face. This is a guy that sells you the top. No, it's very relevant.
If we're discussing
let's talk about Bitcoin. Screw Hex. Let's talk about Bitcoin. He just said I know more about it than everybody else. Why don't you learn from me? Okay. You want to know when the best time to buy Bitcoin was? When its inflation was the highest. But he calls Hex an inflation bug. And I think that's really funny.
That's correlation, not causation.
No, it's not.
The returns weren't higher because the inflation is highest at the very beginning of the system. The system is small, so the returns are high. That's ridiculous. You said that so many times.
Hold on.
It's just totally ridiculous.
I say things that are true, and they just get angry.
Rich, hold on a second.
I'm having a great time. I think you're great, Richard. I think you're great for the space.
You know, I'll agree a little bit with both of these guys. You know, I have I study this stuff. I'm a student of game theory. I'm a student of Ponzinomics. I'm a student of the game. I have to agree with Mike that this is very well designed. Like Hex it was ahead of its time by a few years.
It's beautiful.
Now it's not that special. Like there's much better Ponzi's, people doing VE, they're doing all this stuff. They're doing amazing stuff now.
No,
but listen,
everything
Richard,
else failed. Ohm failed. Luna failed. All the other things that were supposed to come eat Hex's lunch failed. They all failed.
Agree. I know.
Hex didn't fail.
Bitcoin
dropped 75. Bitcoin dropped 75. Ethereum dropped 85. Hex dropped 95.
I agree. Listen, and I've talked to Do and I've talked to the people around him, and I was kind of at a front row seat. Absolutely, one of the reasons why Luna failed and Hex has not yet completely failed is because Richard very, very intelligently put this amazing idea that at the time did not exist and now it's proliferated of locking up tokens. And actually, Do was telling me he was considering only 1 month before Luna blew up. Do was considering in Anchor having some sort of lockup period so that not everybody could sell at the same time. He didn't implement it, which is kind of why what happened. Luna blew up because everybody unlocked at the same time. What Richard did, which is different with Hex, was very intelligent, very ahead of its time. People lock up for many years, like they can lock up for 10 years and you're incentivized.
The average is like 7. It's like 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, you get more interest. You get more interest. And everyone's locking up at different periods. So in essence, the reason why Hex has not gone to zero, while all these other ones that Richard listed, Ohm and Luna, he's completely right. It's because people are locked up for different amounts of time. There's no perps anywhere. People can't short. Like there's no way to short.
It's not why. Listen,
it is why, Richard.
Bitcoin dropped 75, Ethereum dropped 85, Hex dropped 95, but Hex has been paying you interest the entire time. Lots and lots and lots of interest, which cancels out a lot of that dip. Hex is also up 1,000x after dipping 90% because it went up 10,000x.
Where does the interest come from? Where does the interest come from?
It comes from the same place Bitcoin miners' revenue comes from. You see, Bitcoin has locking as well. You lock up your money in mining hardware and you lock up your money in electricity bills and then you earn yield. But people are too stupid to see the negative externalities. Every proof of work system inflates and that hurts the price, but rewards people for on-ramping. So Ethereum inflates and has net inflation, and yet the price pumps hard as heck. Bitcoin inflates, and that's how you go from 0 coins to 19 million coins over 10 years, is by hyperinflating, basically. And its inflation used to be exponentially higher. It was 2 times higher every 4 years we go back. And so the best time to buy Bitcoin was when there was no liquidity. There was one place to buy it in the world, Mt. Gox. Everyone called it a scam. And all the coins are owned by one guy. And then you look at Hex and you're like, it has centralized ownership. Look, all the coins are in basically a couple addresses. Look, everyone calls it a scam. Look, it has low liquidity. Look, it's only traded a couple places. And you're like, hey, those are exact same properties that allowed Bitcoin to go up 69 million %. And then people see that opportunity and they're like, what? I don't get it.
Wait a second. I have a question. You guys have both called Hex a scam, right? And Hex and scams usually have time periods where they collapse. So after a certain period, the scam collapses. So if you're both so convinced that Hex is a scam, how long do you give Hex before it collapses? Because scams can't go on forever, right? I don't think there's been a scam in history except for governments that has lasted forever. So how long does how long do you guys give this scam?
Yeah, I can answer that. In real life, in economies, what we have is demographics, and they say demographics are destiny. And if you look at a lot of the mature economies now, even China, there's a lot of people that are getting very old and they're no longer, able to work. So young people have to support them. Now, this might sound like this is not relevant, but actually this is the life cycle of any Ponzi or economy, and this is extremely relevant. So with Hex, I've written an article, people can check my Medium, the 3 rules of Ponzinomics. And the first rule, which is the most important of all, is that money cannot leave or enter this closed system. Hex has no end game unless it becomes, money. People go to the store and use Hex to buy stuff and people get paid their wages in Hex. Otherwise, at some point it runs out. So why demographics matter? In that sense, like Richard said, Hex is up 10,000%. And this is exactly true. But,
a million percent.
A million percent.
Up 10,000, up
a million, 10,000 times and a million percent.
It went up.
Because you multiply by 100. Okay. Yeah. So the problem with his 2 arguments, one is, Bitcoin is a piece of shit because it's already gone up 1,000,000%. The thing is, Hex is also
690 million percent.
690 million. The thing is, Hex is also at a late stage of its cycle now. The demographics are getting old. The people are getting older. There is not enough fresh blood. So what they're doing, they're sending leaflets. They're sending leaflets to people in LA and all kinds of places. They're trying to get young people to join the workforce. What does that mean, workforce? It means they're putting money into the system because it's a closed system. The only way for the system to continue to pay out people, because people have locked up for 7 years. Think about this. Who's going to be around in 7 years when those Hex tokens unlock to give them dollars, to give them money like Bitcoin or whatever dollar, whatever thing you want to? There's not going to be people unless they keep recruiting. But it's already up 1,000,000%. This is like an old demographic. So to answer your question, Rand, how many years is this going to go with this older demographic? Not long.
Hey guys, I found an altcoin. Go ahead.
I have an idea. How long?
Couple of years.
Unless
they do this amazing marketing and they manage to extend it for like another one.
5 years?
2 to 3.
5 years?
2 to 3.
What if I gave you? What if I put it out there and I said, 5 years from now, what's the price of Hex? We'll agree that if the price of Hex is higher than the price of Hex is today, then we can deem it a success. If it's lower than the price that it is today, we'll deem it a failure or a scam or whatever you want to call it. Would you take a bet 5 years from now?
I would, yeah, for sure.
Yes,
especially at the current price. I think it'll be 0.0001 cent by then, right? It'll go back basically to where it came from because again, there's no value.
Would you take the other side of that bet?
Guys, I have so much money that all of your net worths combined isn't even a rounding error, and like my watch collection. So like I just talking about bets with me is a waste of time.
Richard, you're very good at what you do.
I'm very good at a lot of
stuff.
You
have a lot of money. I've
been retired for 20 years, brother.
Does that include
20 years I've been retired.
Well, not 20, right? Like
so I want to listen. I could sit here and just flex all day and talk about how I raised 27 million for charity on the world's largest diamond, have a Red Bull can side.
We can't lose Richard.
Oh no! As soon as you said he has the Red Bull can, and I know Mike has a question related to this.
What he just said was, see, this man here, the toddler body guy that's mostly a head with no body in the bottom left corner, the Todd bod, he thinks that retail adoption is what will give Bitcoin value, but he has it entirely backwards. Retail adoption hurts Bitcoin's value. Retail adoption makes it easier to sell. Selling is the opposite of buying. Selling hurts the price. Bitcoin went up 690 million% on barely being able to use it anywhere because the only thing the price chart cares about is buying and holding. That's the reason stores of value like gold, real estate, stocks are worth more than money remittance companies. So just gold savings value, its store of monetary value, 90% of its value is worth 10 times PayPal plus MasterCard plus Visa plus American Express, because by definition, tautologically, stores of value are worth more than that which we use to transmit them. And the transmitting of money has been around for 100 years. Hawala has done it very well in the Islamic countries. MoneyGram has done it for 100 years in the United States. Western Union, you name it, they've got money transfer figured out. What is new and unique and beneficial is the future market supply, which, by the way, Hex is the only cryptocurrency in the world that I'm aware of that has a future chart of market supply. We know when the stakes are ending. We know when people can dump them. We know what the future sell pressure looks like. You don't have that in Bitcoin. You don't have Satoshi letting you know when he can dump his coins. He can dump them whenever he wants. His kid could find the keys. Dumperoni.
This is a very good point. So like on that specific point, because we talk about transparency, like everything's on the blockchain, ERC20, smart contract, you can see who has what and what's going on. There's a few things that, Richard does not like to admit, and he's never admitted. And I understand why. So I'm not going to press him to admit these things.
Press me, murder me. I'm here.
You're not going to answer. You're going to say, I've seen this before. Like you said, you've done this 50 times, although you haven't done this.
Yes. You guys all change faces, but say the same things.
Yeah, of course. You have
smaller stature.
Oh, absolutely. So what Richard doesn't like to answer is, all the origin coins that got sent out of the origin address. So the reason why there's 30-40% yield is because 90% of the tokens, which he has and all kinds of addresses that he split up, because like I said, he's designed this very intelligently. And mass respect, Richard, really as a student, Who has those
God,
addresses? Have you like burnt? Have you burnt them? Have you burnt the private keys to the addresses that have all the hex that got
No,
created
he can, and you know why? Because in order to offer 38% to the plebs, right, these people that have no idea what they're doing, he has to hold 90% of the supply, and they have to be unstaked. So the biggest risk is that Richard is literally Satoshi in the Hex ecosystem, except he owns like 10 times as much as Satoshi, and he could decide to dump whenever he wants. That's the secret risk in Hex, and of course he's not going to do that because Richard is a wise scammer. So like he's not going to dump that supply on the people. He's been around the block a few times.
Creates token with 1,000 days of flawless operation that goes up 1,000,000% in price.
It's
everything
flawless
about
operations because it
perfect.
runs on Ethereum. It's not because you have to launch Pulse Chain.
Okay, did Luna?
You launching Pulse Chain is a huge step for you, Richard, because it would show that you can actually create something from scratch and not just spam somebody else's